where we've been with Rav Wolbe's Olam haYedidus, right, is that, in this version, he reintroduces, although we skipped it, he introduces the idea that we saw in the longer version, that that the Torah's goal is to build a world of affection, and that it's all about relationships with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with each other, with ourselves, and that these relationships deal with the aspects of the soul, are sourced in the various aspects of the soul that we had been seen in the other sources, and that halacha is really built around these three classes of relationship, and he draws, the way Rav Shimon does, although we haven't seen Rav Shimon, but he draws this idea that the first affection is between Hashem and the Jewish people, and that creates an affection among Jews, which creates a relationship of peace and harmony between Jews and other nations, and responsibility toward, beyond the human species, toward other living things in the world at large. So there's this concentric circles of concern, of connection, that radiate out. It starts with the realization that everything Hashem creates is for a purpose, and therefore is a value. And from there we have that relationship with Hashem, and so on. He's right. We saw at the end of last week, after looking at mitzvos between people, we saw the idea of zarus, estrangement, and how estrangement could bring from alienation, can bring a lack of connection to one's real self, spousal disharmony, fighting in communities, and even down to war. Now we're up to a more extreme antonym of Yedidus, from estrangement, which is zarius, to cruelty, achzarius, like an absolutist version of estrangement. And that's the last topic of this essay. Mehazarus la'achzarius. From estrangement, from separation, we get to total separation. He writes it as two words. Hayumash b'midas ha'adam. That is the nadir of the midos in a person. In his Qunterus b'Torah b'shiras Hazinu, it's mentioned in Hazinu, Hamas taninim yenam, the venom of, I don't know, JPS said vipers, but taninim are, I think, is something that lives in the sea.
I'm thinking of Tiamat in Babylonian.
Yeah, but that would be Tehom in Hebrew.
Oh, yeah.
Tiamat is the goddess of the deep, and that's Tehom in Hebrew. It's not Taninim. No, Taninim could be a water snake. It could be a crocodile. It could be if Tzfardea is not crocodile. But it's some water thing that has a venom. What were you saying, John?
Sea serpents.
Right. Taninim chol tomos. Right. Taninim live in the Tehom.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I think it's a sea snake and not a snake, but they said vipers. Either way, the anger or the venom of a tanin is their wine. Barosh sanim achzar, and the head of the snake, or the head of some other snake-like word, achzar, is cruel. Now, the reason why he quotes this is not for the pasuk, but for Rav Shimon Hirsch. Mevaer, he explains, Kiami lam or keves. The The word achzar is really a contraction. Perusha, and its explanation is achzar, which we saw already 20 years later because we started backwards in time. Yesh asher hazarus mishtaletes kalil al hayachasim. There's somebody where alienation totally controls all of their relationships, dominates all of their relationships. Achakot sad ro'eh b'yirivo rak shlila, till each side only sees his opposition negatively.
Yeah.
So I read this sentence, I'm thinking cancel culture.
Mm.
You're so alienated that the only thing you could see in the other side is reason to dismiss them.
The power of no.
Beli shum zechus kiyom, with no merit worthy of existence. Zui achzarius, that is cruelty. V'kasher hayachas higia lidei kach, when a relationship reaches that point, kol tzad roeh hechrech mishpati u'musuri, they see a legal and moral obligation, kaviyachol, as if lashmi, to destroy, la'avod, to eradicate, ulharos, and to ruin, es shekenegdo, their opposition. So this is, I got to say that I think this explains contemporary politics perfectly. We've gone from zarus, from seeing them as the other, to achzarius, seeing them as only worthless, and we can't perceive any value in the other side. Ein gavul lekochos ha'heres ulamtzius ha'inuyim hamitzgalim oz. There is no limit then to the forces of ruin and the and finding inui, what's that, torture, suffering, hamiskalim oz. The inuyim is the same term as the 5 deprivations of Yom Kippur or Tisha B'Av. Historia yodas l'saper harbe mod. History knows how to tell really, really well, or really a lot. I mean, it's
really
talking quantity.
About
it's talking al tofas machridus shalach zarios b'chol tzufos. The I remember looking up machridus because I was going, what is haredi? What is that root doing there? But it's not. It's the various forms of, I forgot what machridus is, but it's not from chared. It's not from quaking.
I'll look it up.
Thank you.
Well, keep on going in the meantime.
Okay, fine. It's like every era has its own achzarius. Bisman atik, in the ancient days, in prehistory, hayakol adam zar. Well, I don't know. Prehistory is too far back. Every person was alien. Baal safa biltimu venes. If you didn't understand their language, mutal lehareg chayef hasadeh. You could kill them like their
anxiety, fear.
Anxiety, maybe.
Yeah, it is the same root.
Okay. That wasn't what I had gotten last time though. But okay. Pardon? I didn't catch you, John.
No, I was just muttering fear and trembling.
Yo, that is chared.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bisman atik hayakol adam zar, baal safa bilti muvenes, mutar le'areg k'chayas hasadeh. If you didn't speak their language, you could kill them like an animal. Hayachas el havadim ad lifnei berech 120 shana yadua. The way people related to slaves until about 120 years ago was well known. Bisman beinayim, in the medieval period, Haya hamonopol shel maaseh achzarius b'yidei das ha'ava hanotzris. The the religion of love of Christianity had a monopoly on actions of Achzarius. He Yaduim Misalei Slav, like we know about the Crusaders, the
Amitsky.
Inquisition. Yeah, I'm not going to try to figure out how to translate that to Hebrew. Mishpatei Machshefot, witch trials, Ba'od Hamtzaot, Brutaliot Kailu, and other, brutal.
Such brutalities.
Yeah. Bismamenu, Hisig Amho Gim Hamishorim. Now, in our days, the nation of philosophers and poets,
Mhm.
Sheim Noraim Biguluye Hachzariyut. Right. So who's the exemplar in his lifetime of Achzarius? I think he means the Germans.
Oh, definitely. That's definitely
The nation of
land of
philosophers and
philosophers and poets. Yeah.
poets. Yes.
There's-
And no, and that is his lifetime. I mean, so he would say
Yes.
in our day. I mean, he's not
Yeah.
as young as I am. But Chayim HaModerniyim, in modern life, Lav Shach Achzarius Itzallah Chadasha. Achzarius wears a new gown. But Darwin, the Yatzar Eshath his theory
theory of evolution.
of evolution.
Evolution.
Yes, Kimilchemes Chaim Achzaris, this brutal struggle for life, struggle for survival. That's the usual idiom, right?
Yeah.
Nitusha bein minei balei chayim. Right. So all species battle in this struggle for existence. Hamachida es hachalashim, which destroys the weak. V'rak hagiborim v'azrizim bioter machzikim mamad, and only the strong and the quick, the more strong and more quick, right? They continue to survive. Simama zu shel melchemes hachayim achzarit. This mindset, sisma, this system of brutal or cruel war for life, ishtarba letoda'as kol adam moderni. This has become, it was imbibed into the mentality of all modern man. Where was I? All modern man. Yeah. Horim mechanchim es tzetzaehem likras melchemes hachayim. Parents educate their children, their offspring, to greet the war of survival. B'chol yelad yodea, and every child knows, ki yiyeh lav lishtamesh b'mirpak shelo, he has to push with his elbows. Hishtamesh is not push, but mirpak is elbow. Today, litzor latzmo mamad ulahachzik oso, to get for himself a place to stand and hold on to it. Ein minyanenu kan livdok tiara zu shel Darwin. I'm not here like checking the accuracy of of Darwin's theory of evolution. Ad kama himu what it's based on, and that star refers you to articles. So I don't really know if he's for or against. That's not his point. Like, he's not arguing the science. What he's complaining about is that there's a destructive mindset that comes with the theory, and that exists in practice.
We call it nowadays social Darwinism.
Yeah, but I think he's dealing with something less cerebral. Just Darwin has created this
Maybe
idea.
He's been on the subway at rush hour.
Yeah, Darwin created this idea that, well, I mean, I'm thinking, just getting onto a bus in Israel.
Yeah.
Getting onto a bus in Israel, right? In New York, you have some chance that first come, first serve, right? In Israel, it really is a fight You know, but this idea that life is a zero-sum game, and in order for me to get ahead, they have to lose. He's blaming on the culture that Darwin's theory inculcated, and that's his complaint. Not he's not being some shallow pedagogic kind of rabbi who Darwinism is evil, or he separates the two topics. He's only talking about the mindset. So Hos has a rus. So the forces of disengagement, of alienation, kiblu tegburot nikarit from the technology. And remember, he's writing this in 1960. The forces of alienation got visibly stronger from the technology, which threatens to swallow the human side of a person. See, I think this goes beyond Schopenhauer and well into Taoism. I don't mean that he was a Taoist. I just mean like his attitude toward technology being alienating, and it's very extreme. Or maybe just as an engineer, I'm very sensitive to this. Or somebody who was trained to be an engineer. Adam litzar hamudrach hulo al yedei mechonot. Right, he does everything by machine, in all the aspects of his life. Bavodah hamiktoit, professional work, v'gam bizman hapanai, and also your time off. Anu nezarim yoter v'yoter b'technika. We rely more and more on the technical. U'misrachakim yoter v'yoter me'atzmeinu, and we are further and further distanced from ourselves, upnimiyosenu, and our core, our inside, umakshira kesher rigshi imsvivosenu, and from building an emotional tie to our surroundings.
Keep in mind, he's a reader of Heidegger.
I think he quoted Heidegger in the 1980s version.
And so, this is clear. Heidegger has this whole thing about technique, about the evils of technology. I mean, it's really in that there is something in that vein.
But regardless of what he said, what I heard, living in a generation where so many people choose not to engage live and spend their entire lives arguing online. I hear more truth to what he said now than when he wrote it.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, we don't engage with ideas in their full depth, and we don't engage with each other in our full depth. Something I noticed, I think I mentioned this before. So a recurring theme that comes up on Musser Institute retreats is somebody notes, usually not a speaker, but somebody notes, and it becomes a topic of conversation, the difference in behavior between when you make eye contact and when you don't make eye contact, and how different you are to the same person if you're driving, and how much bad behavior comes out when we're driving. The theory being because you don't really make a emotional connection to a person you can't see. Right? You see a car, maybe you could see through the glass. You can't see through the glass, but what you're seeing is a car, not a person. Right? And it's much more so online, where because there's no emotional, you see the connection between zarus and achzarius. When you're conversing online, I mean, just simple things like the tone in which I disagree with somebody. Right, when I'm online, I'm much more likely to say that something is obvious. Of course. No. Right, the language of disagreement is very, very different when there is zarus inserted between people, because, well, not inserted, just the connection's never made. It's not like the technology creates a distance. It's more like communicating by technology means the distance is never crossed. It's not crossed and separated again. Evening, Tina. So just to catch you up on context, Rabbi Wolbe is talking about how Zarus migrates, devolves, although that's not a great word to use because he just discussed evolution, into Achzarius. Now I was saying, like, he got down very hard on technology. And I was saying that today it's more true because we don't communicate live anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And not nearly as much. I mean, obviously you do some. Otherwise, Shabbos would be really, really long. But the technological connection doesn't make the emotional connection. And I was commenting, I see it in my own writing that I disagree with people in a much more Achzariyut way. Putting down their ideas, denying, knowing them, not KNOW, saying no to them, no, it can't be, which I would never do if it was a live disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
So the connection between Zerus and Achzarius. His problem with evolution is just that it inculcated into society this idea that life is a zero-sum game. He doesn't say he has anything against evolution itself. There is an article in this footnote right here, which I did not read to know whether he has a problem with evolution or not. But he explicitly says that's a side issue. He's just worried about the effects of social Darwinism on, as Jordy reminded me the term, on general culture and how people are relating to each other. Zaruzos Hamar Ila es Yachas Ha'adam El Azulas. This alienation, which attenuates the relationship between a person and the other, Eina Mitztameses B'tchum HaChevrati, does not end with social, within the limits of social life. Kol Adam Yodea Matzavim Utkufos Shehem Nia Shabahem Hunia Zar La'atzmo. Every person knows situations and times in which we are alienated to ourselves. He is alienated to himself. But the second Tina walks in, because she's our token other gender person, I tend to start trying to translate gender neutrally. Lo al chinam ra'u chazal as hakel zar begufo shel adam. This is an idiom we saw last week, where he defined the Yetzer Hara as avodah zara, right? That alien god that lives in a person's body. B'korea begadav b'chamato, the person who tears their garments in their anger. This is again a reference to Gemara that we learned last week. Ta'asu acha hamidos shabahem mishtaletes hazarush shel adam she'eno od etel atzmo. Anger is but one of the midos that Zarus rules. This is like self-rules, points itself in charge of a person until they are not even with themselves. V'hagausan haro'eh es atzmo ba'or misulaf, and the egotist who sees himself in a, I forgot what misulaf is, Udimyono hu mishahu legamre acher, and he doesn't see himself in an honest light. Honest is not misulaf. I'm just guessing from context. I'm trying to fill in the word. ubedimyono, and in his imagination, humishu legamri acher ma'asher hu b'mtzius. He is entirely a different person from what he is in actuality. haYedidus gedula. Is there a greater alienation than that? This is a tragedy in Oshit. This is a personal tragedy. Sha'adam yachol lehefach zar. Person could turn into a stranger. Lo rak kalpid zulaso, not just with respect to the other. Elagam kalfei atzmo. A person could even be a stranger to themselves. Yeshaya Hanavi mitaer ofan acher shel hazarus kalpei atzmo. Yeshaya illustrates another way that a person could be alienated from themselves. Barishaim kiyam nigrash, the evil, the wicked ones. I don't know what that was. The kiyam nigrash, kesheket lo yuchal, bigarshu meimav refesh v'tit. So the Misulaf is distorted. Okay, so I called it dishonest. I wasn't that far off. Yeah, now you can start with Nigrash is sent away, but it's not. It's another word that I had in my hands when I was preparing. Yasheket lo yuchal. Right, the quiet. He's not able to be quiet. V'yigashume mav refesh v'tit, and his waters churn up. Mud, and it's not teat. It's not slime. It's something in the water that's not clear. I can't think of the word. Hashakua kol kach b'pulutenu. Ad she'eno yachol od lios sheket v'ragua. Somebody who is somebody so shakua, so stuck in his actions, so immersed in bipal tanut, in keeping himself busy. Ad she'eno yachol od lios sheket v'ragua. He can't handle being quiet and at ease. Hu achzar kalpei atzmo. So Yeshaya, when he describes the wicked churning like a sea, bringing up the mud and the sediment from the bottom, this is the person who is so busy, who so has to keep himself busy that they can't handle being quiet and at ease with themselves. Hu achzar kalpei atzmo. Such a person is alienated from themselves. Behechrech Yimku kochos haYedidus, and necessarily the forces of affection will be attenuated. Asher b'nafsho p'nima, within his soul. You know that Yeshaya mechane izer rasha. You notice Yeshaya calls such a person a rasha. Zeu anigud hamuchlat le'adam hamushrash b'mnucha. This is the opposite of a person who is rooted in rest. Shehischalnu lakira, that we started to recognize k'shedibarnu al haShabbat, when we started talking about the relationship between Shabbos and the rest of Shabbos and Yedidus. Menucha sheyesh ba emes v'emunah. Menucha, which gives us a chance to, which has in it truth and faith, avon dava, loving and givingness, shalom ubitachon, peace and security. Kan hinenu amdim al hatzad hatraji shel mechalel Shabbos. Here we see the tragic side of the person who desecrates Shabbos. Asher sheket lo yuchlu. They can't handle quiet. Duchal. He can't handle quiet. And Mishalim Mechir Yakar Ma'od, he pays a heavy price, avur a precious price, avur shkiyaso bipal tanut, by being so admired in keeping himself busy. Olam hu yishar zar la'atzmo. He never takes time to listen to himself, so he remains alienated to himself. So that's where he goes with haChessed. So the
now we know the thing is the doorbell, and now when
yeah. But one of those has to be muted because you're going in circles. Okay, that's better. So that's the that's the section on haChessed. Thoughts, questions, corrections?
Again, well, two things. Again, we have the link to technology that has made things a lot worse. There's this whole discussion among more secular folks about having some kind of technology Shabbos, right?
Right.
Right. It's hard. It really takes an effort. There's one thing. One of the things I was thinking about. I don't know.
Okay, so I've heard pushback. People who keep a traditional Shabbos who are bothered by this idea of selling Shabbos as a day off from telecom, because that's not what Shabbos historically is. It's not the focus of Shabbos. No. And it's a great idea, but don't claim that that's Shabbos. Like, no. Shabbos is its own thing.
No.
But I'm thinking from what he writes, no, that's exactly what Shabbos is. Shabbos is a day that you don't stay busy, that you come to a relationship with yourself, that you hear yourself, that you build that haYedidus that you need to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and others by just having that minute of, minucha. He's defining and creating the space to have a haYedidus with yourself.
And also, I mean, there's a flip side, which is the important, and it's something that you have to learn to live with it. It's the importance of boredom. So you're bored on Shabbos. It's okay. It's okay to feel bored. It's part of getting in touch with yourself, And boredom is good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think that if you get used to moving slower, and I'm only saying this hypothetically because I'm not reporting personal experience. It's possible I have a daughter who's very good at this. She could enjoy the quiet. Mm-hmm. It's not a boring experience. Downtime is not to her a boring experience. And like she'll even when we're all reading in the living room, she'll go to her own room where it's even quieter. She's fine with that. That's, I don't, it's just getting used to a different pace, which I can only see in examples. It's never something, I'm not claiming to have experienced it. I don't know if boredom has to be part of it, is where I'm going. Mm-hmm. Just, you enjoy singing to yourself. You enjoy hearing your own thoughts. You enjoy, whatever. You enjoy watching the sunset. You don't need to do something to enjoy watching the sunset. Just watch the sunset. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be this bit. Part of boredom is that you're trying. I've gotten so used to filling my time so densely that a less dense packing feels like I don't know what to do. And that's boredom. But I think it's kind of interesting that he defines Shabbos so much in terms of finding that time to know yourself. The other thing I was going to suggest, if we wanted to start introducing homework, but I mean, it's easy for me to introduce homework. It's pointless if we're not actually going to commit to do it. He talked about the egotistical person who has a very false view of themselves. And one of the things that happens when you start working in Musar is that a person rushes, they think they know which midos are off, right? And they start right away with like, oh, I need to work on my patience. Oh, I need to work on my on my I was thinking patience with time, but there's also patience with other people. I need to start working on my ego. I need to start working on my honoring others. These are things they go into it thinking they know what they, and then they start keeping a cheshbon and nefesh, and it turns out that the thing that you thought you were so bad at is the thing that you're paying attention to, and is not nearly as bad as the thing that you don't pay attention. There are things that I do so wrongly because they're not even on my radar, right? That they aren't, my actual biggest problems are not the ones I know about because those are on my radar and I self-correct somewhat. The really big problems are the ones I don't even think are on my list of problems. If you don't want to be alienated from yourself, right? A cheshbon hanefesh exercise is invaluable. And I'm not talking like, the book Cheshbon Nefesh and the what's it called. I'll get to what you said, Jordy, in a second. And Ben Franklin's charting midos. I'm just talking, take one decision out of the day and analyze how you did it. And I don't mean a major life decision. I mean like I don't know, one of the first decisions I make in the morning. I have a Nespresso maker next to a Keurig. Right? Do I want to spend the extra 2 minutes to have an espresso or a latte, or do I want just a regular cup of coffee? I mean, any decision, but just spending the time watching how I thought a decision through engages me with myself, and that breaks through that self zarut, that self alienation, the seeing myself, the being a stranger to myself. Just spending 5 minutes a day being meta, thinking about how I think, could to break, as a way to chisel at that self alienation. But again, I will throw out ideas if the conversation on Slack and in meetings doesn't reflect that anybody actually does the ideas, I won't bother throwing them out because it's easy to invent them. It takes me, while I'm making tea before the meeting, I could come up with something, but which is actually when this thought hit me. But see, tea. But what's it called? But if we're not actually going to be operating on that kind of level, and we're going to treat this more like a discussion in a class, what's it called? The we can deal with that. We have to decide if we want to be, a VAD and not just a class. That, that's neither here nor there. Now, the reason why I have the Nespresso is because the only thing that my kids know that I like and that they are able to shop for is drinks. That's why I have a mug that has a thermostat built in. You see the little red light? I don't know if you can see it from there. There's a little red light. It not only heats the tea, I could pick to the degree Fahrenheit what temperature I want the tea heated to. This is they need to find things to give me. I have a daughter who got me this Chinese tea ceremony tea set with a special maker that uses gung fu style tea, and take the tea very slowly. You're only drinking an ounce and a half, 2 ounces at a time. It's very, very calming because it's slow and methodical, and the way Chinese do ceremonies. So that's the reason why the Nespresso is same reason why I have the Keurig, just different years. Now Jordy said something, I wanted to get back to this, about we need others to help us see our virtues and our defects. So somebody whose podcast I follow, he gives a podcast I would say every day, but travels a lot. But he tries to do every day, finding some lesson to take home from the Daf Yomi. Some statement about values, about Torah's view of life, about midos, about whatever. So he once said, and I pushed back in private, I pushed back on it. He said that, other people can be your instrument panel, right? If you're flying through life on an airplane, other people could be your instrument panel. I said that Olam, it's true, but I'd be afraid of saying that in public because other people should be other people. Like, we can't turn our relationships with other people into time to focus on ourselves. Like, I just see that as dangerous advice. Not wrong, just it has the inherent problem of what you need is other people, not that you're reading as instruments, but working together. Right? You need to be working with other people. Right? I mean, probably that's what marriage was invented to be about. Right? Azer Connecto.
I just cited you, so maybe I'll open it.
But
Oh no, come with you first. I'm eating it. What did you say?
So that's the that's what your thought jogged for me, Jordy, was the you need others to help you see our virtues and our defects, but only only to the extent that you're working together on it, and not to the extent that you turn them into mirrors.
Oh no, I'm not talking about instrumentalizing them. It's just
Yeah, I understand that. I was just
it's
afraid
just a
that
matter of course. I
yeah.
mean, I know what I believe to be my strengths and weaknesses is not necessarily what other people see, and I have my own biases. As I always tell my wife, I'm like a misaligned car. I always will start turning right. I need to steer the wheel back. I need other people to tell me, guess what? That's where you're real lucky, buddy, not this other stuff.
Right. So what I was saying about cheshbon and nefesh is I wasn't focusing on just knowing yourself better, but spending time to know yourself better. Like, it's not just the knowing yourself better, it's the building a relationship with yourself that you're watching, that you're more self-aware, that you're more, right? You took time. It's a quiet moment. It's not a keep busy moment, right? Let's say at the end of the day, to just hear yourself. I mean, it's spending time on that relationship was where I was going with it, more than the outcome, which itself has value. But in the context of this essay, I was thinking of it as a way to just work on a self relationship, knowing yourself more honestly because you know yourself. But we'll see. We'll see if that idea intrigues people or not. I'm curious to see if curious to see next week, like if anybody ran with it or not. Anyway, I'm going to go to the next section, so that we can finish this essay this week. Lo rechoka mikan. So zeres kalpe mala. So we just discussed alienation toward other people and being self-alienated. Now we're going to deal with alienation between a person and God. Lo rechoka mikan, not far from being alienated with oneself, from where we were, from here. He has arut kalpe mala, is being estranged toward heaven. Hazika lekach lekoach ha'elyon, itchuna benefesh ha'adam. A desire, being drawn toward a higher force is part of a person. It's an innate aspect of a person's soul. Haregesh hadati, hu regesh elementary. It's a not elementary in the school sense. It's closer to elemental. It's it's not an emergent property. It's not a composite. It's a fundamental, one of the letters of the human alphabet. Lo mizman ra'isi bi'archot pedagogi ma'amar al chinuch yeladim b'bayis. It wasn't that long ago that I saw in a monthly periodical about pedagogy, about teaching, a statement about educating children at home. Ubak keta al she'elot dinot, and in it was a section, a piece on sweet questions, shel yeladim begil tza'ir, that children ask at a young age, the ketzad lashiv aleihen, and how to answer these cute, these dear little questions. What are these questions? Amin valdat. They're about sex and they're about religion. This rings weird. This combination rings weird. Aval eno mikri, but it's not a coincidence. Kamoshe yelad rach, a young child, from it anin bimtziut shel hamin hasheni, is already fascinated with the existence of the other gender, the other sex, really. Kach ubidiyuk va'oso elementariut. Similarly, on the same elemental level, hu onin ladat mi barosi et hashmayim v'haaretz, who created me, the heaven and the earth. This is why these are the questions that children ask, because this is like fundamental, the fundamental mysteries of human existence is, sex and God. Aval gadol osim horim liyaledehem, a great crime parents do to their children. Geshehem mitchamtim latet lahem atshuva amitit, when they get all wise. Oh no, not mitchamtim, not wise. They get all reluctant to give them the true answer that there is a creator of the world, and it is God, Hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu. B'makom lepetach es hayachad hayachai v'ativ'i el chei holamim, instead of, in the place of opening the living and natural relationship toward the eternal, Shehu Elokei Yisrael, who is the God of Israel, Miyom Heyoseinu L'Goy, from the day we first became a nation, they give an answer that's off topic. They push away that living feeling, Bazika Chaya, and the attraction, the drawing of a living being toward its creator. Bekach הם גוזלים ממנו אחת החבויות הבירות ביותר. You rob from the child one of the greatest experiences in life, the haYedidus Adam, haYedidus bein borei v'nivra. So the child when a child says, how did the world come to be? They're asking a religious question. The parent who answers a scientific question is answering off topic. And they squash the natural, elemental religious thirst of the child and rob them of an experience that could be, one of the more fundamental and meaningful experiences in the life of a person, to have a relationship with the Creator. Again, notice he doesn't actually say that he has a problem with the scientific answer's accuracy. He calls it tshuva shelo le'inyan. He doesn't say it's a false answer. He says it's off topic, right? How God created the world is just not really what the child needs to know or wants to know. So you're taking this moment where the child is saying, where's my creator? Or how do I connect to my creator? Why do I exist? And turning it into a discussion of science. And that's not the time, in his opinion. I thought that was a very powerful and scary statement, frankly, speaking as a parent. This idea that a child at a young age has a thirst for God, and we're busy trying to, give detailed, informative answers. So we go to the science and we could discuss whatever, Big Bang, evolution, all the geology, all the various theories of origins. And that's not really what the kid's asking about. The kid really wants a religious answer. It's not to say you shouldn't give the child a scientific answer, but that's not what the young child is asking that sweet little question about. Sweet little question is really coming from a natural thirst for God. Ko harbe anashim, thus many people, sovlim midatiyut mudchekes. Right? Sovel is savlanut, but it means they carry a burden of a pushed aside religiosity. Ish hamada ro'eh pil'ei habriya, the scientist sees the wonders of creation, b'mechkaro, in his studies, in his investigations, umegala tamid yoter pla'im, and constantly finds more wonders. In ba'adam, I don't even know the nikudos for the word for cell. If that's ta, it's not te, because te is this stuff. In be galaxiot, lama lo ta'akei shalo likro lemecholel pla'im ela bishmo borei olam. Why does he have a problem, right? Why does he have such a desire not to call the one who causes these wonders by the name, the creator of the universe, Hashem Elokim Emes, the true God? Lama Yehudim muchim is sanvurim lafoch Torat kel chai laosef techasim. Why do Jews bang with nails to turn? It's an idiom. I don't know what to do with the idiom. Lafoch Torat kel chai, to turn where they work so hard to turn the Torah of the living God to a collection of ceremonies, datiyim, religious, actions, inyanei pulchan, cult activities, mesim, that are dead. Einzu kiyim hazarut shecharada l'toch haYechesed shebein adam ve'elokav. This is just the zarut, the alienation that climbed in to the relationship between a person and their God. Zarut zu hi hashorish shel avodah zarah. This zarut, this alienation between a person and God, that is what the source of avodah zarah. And notice he emphasizes the word zarah. There's extra spaces between the letters. Shehi pshuta timashma'a. It is simply as it sounds. Avodah shesholei ba koach hazarut. Avodah zarah is exactly what the words mean. An avodah, worship that is ruled by alienation. Hapachpach derech ish v'zar sheim ovdim avodat elilim. So the revolves the path of the person and the stranger, that they worship the worship of gods, elilim, false gods. This is Yalkut Shimoni on Mishlei. Amok umisturi hu koach hazarut zeh. Deep is this power of alienation. Shehesit, that ruins as ha'adam isman ha'etik l'skol le'elil mate, when he sets aside time to worship, to liskod is to, it's a derogatory way of saying worship. Le'elil mate, to a dead God. B'makom elokim chayim, instead of the God, the living God. V'shagaram va'adayin gorem, that caused and continues to cause lafichas Torah elokim chayim, so perverting the Torah of the living God, misorah, to a tradition, asher ein ba chiyut, which has no life. Ve'emunah chaya, and a living faith, l'sarid shel zman beinayim, to a remnant of the Middle Ages. I read his misoret in quotes here, and I was thinking of Fiddler on the Roof. So Fiddler on the Roof, right? The big song, Tradition, Tradition, right? He doesn't have any relationship to why you wear tzitzis. His answer is it's a tradition. And what happens is, one by one, you see each of his daughters less and less connected. Right? The first daughter marries the boy she fell in love with, but at least he's a fellow boy of the community. Right? The next one marries a Jew, but he's a communist, and they go off to Siberia together. Next one intermarries, has no connection to Judaism whatsoever. Although at the very end, she at least, goes into exile with the other Jews, because the whole way that the Russians are treating the Jews disgusts her and her idealistic boyfriend. Turn of the century was a big time for East European idealism. But in any case, that's I think that's what made me think of when he talked about turning the Torah of Elokim Chaim into a tradition. The tradition had no life, and it didn't capture his kids.
Or you mean
Switching back.
regarding science, is he talking about the attempt to rationalize things too much as per the Rambam?
No, he was very clear. He just considers science off topic. To him, the key to science is to go, wow, that's amazing. Look what the creator does. If you turn science into an alternate answer and you're not looking at the creator, you've made a distance between yourself and the creator that wasn't necessary.
So he thinks that parents are mechanic their kids too much about sciences.
Well, his point was what? That a child is two fundamental, obsessions. One of them being the other sex, and the other one being where do I come from, and God, and all those questions.
The fact of death would come in there, I guess.
I don't know. He doesn't discuss that. He's discussing relationship with God. He's not focusing on death, right? And what he says is that the parent takes all those questions about origins and the child's place in life and turns it into questions about origins and science. And therefore it squashes the child's natural curiosity about God.
You mean from parents?
He's not talking from parents, but I think it's true from parents. I mean, to the extent that it happens, right? The child says, "Where do I come from?" And you start giving an answer about. It doesn't make a difference what it's about, as long as it's not involving the word God. Right?
Yeah,
You're taking a question that was motivated by a child's thirst to know about spirituality. Remember what we saw in the 1980s version in the hospital journal, right? He said that there's two sources of primal urges in a person: the unconscious and the superconscious, which he also identified as the nefesh and the neshama.
right. I
Right?
mean, are you saying like the inherent sense of wonder gets put off from what it should be? Because like I was raised with a lot of the sense of wonder of evolution and prehistory, and Sir David Attenborough was able to.
Well, no, he definitely is talking about the sense of wonder, because he talks about the scientist who explains one wonder and finds more wonders. Right? He uses the word Pele in the first top sentence that's on the screen. Last word on the line, and then later on in the next line, middle of the next line. He's talking about the scientist finds all these wonders and doesn't, they're so focused on the physical explanation, they don't talk about the creator.
Go beyond the numinous, kind of what to yeah, interesting, yeah.
See, he's saying that he's not saying that science is wrong. He's saying we're using science to avoid questions that would connect us to God. Achein, ba'olam haYedidus anu chayim. We live in the world of Yedidus. Aval Yedidus zos einu nofeles al chekenu kematnas chinam. They don't fall into our lap. This Yedidus, we live in a world of Yedidus, but it doesn't fall into our lap as a free gift. Habore shetal b'libenu dam koach negdizeh koach hazarut. God also gave, placed in our hearts, buried in our hearts, an opposite force, the force of alienation. V'hitil aleinu, and charged us l'karev es kochos haYedidus uvnos aleim es olamenu, to bring close the forces of Yedidus and to use and to build upon them our world. Zos hi besura Torah seinu. This is the gospel of our Torah. V'zehu inyan mitzvoseha, and that is the entire topic of our mitzvos. Sorry for using the word gospel, but Besura Tova is the Judeo-Christian's translation of the word gospel, and so that's just my head clicked in there. It was wrong.
Yeah, well, gospel means news, so or
yeah. I mean, it is the news.
It's the message of our Torah.
The message of our Torah, yeah. But Besura is news.
Yes, right.
Right. So that was but like a religious news. My brain jumped to gospel. Okay, but it was the wrong word. I apologize. Okay. So that really is that's really the end of the topic. At this point, he wants to defend what he just said against what he thinks is against what he thinks is going to be the audience's objections. Lechora, he zamnu b'teir achzariut. It looks like we have perverted the image of achzarius. And we uprooted the word from its accepted meaning. Shalafia Hishem Nirdaf Lisadism. Achzarius means cruelty. So the audience who's thinking in Hebrew, right? Like we could just go with this really cute Rav Hirschism that Achzarius is a contraction of Ach Zarut. He wants to now defend that statement to people to whom Achzarius just is cruelty, and they're not hearing through the word etymology. It's like, yo, you're cheating. You're not really talking about the real Achzarius. Yeled hama'ane chatulim. What's an achzar? The child who tortures kitty cats. Chayil hama'ane shivuyim, or the soldier who tortures POWs. Heim achzariyim. That's what we mean when we say cruel people. Anachnu irchavnu et hayiriyah. We stretched out the page. L'ropa midazu et habituya kitzuni shel zarut. Right, we saw this midah as an extreme image of alienation. V'rinu bashorish kol ra b'olam, and we see in it the source of all evil in this world. Umanaseh, what can we do? B'tchuma shel Torah anu motziim tfisazu. Within the boundaries of the Torah, we see this grabbing, this grasp, right? We grasp an idea. So I guess grasp is the right. This is the way the Torah grasps the concept of Achzarius. Olaraya Navi Divrei HaRambam Mishloshim Makomos. As proof, I'm going to quote the Rambam in 3 places. First is Hilchos Deos. So that's the fundamental idea. Deos are what we call midos. When a person sins against another person, mitzvah love lo dio. It's a mitzvah to tell him. And if he comes back and asks him to forgive him, tarech limchol. I think mitzvah love lo dio, contrary to the way I read it when I prepared, is the person has a mitzvah. The wronged person has a mitzvah to make sure that to clear the air, to tell him, what you did wasn't right. As opposed to, it's one of Shatim in the pasuk, L'sisnes achicha bilvavecha. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Give your compatriot to rebuke, and don't carry sin. And these are counted as 3 different mitzvos out of the 613. But among people who explain the pasuk as opposed to halacha, you rebuke the other person so that you can clear the air and you don't stay enemies. So don't hate them in your heart. Tell them what they did wrong. And then you won't continue hating each other because you can make up. So, V'im Chazar, and if the offending party comes back, right? Oh, I didn't realize what it was like from your perspective. Or I didn't even notice I did it. Could you forgive me? Tzarech limchol. You have to forgive. V'imlo yehei hamochel achzari. And if he isn't forgiving, he's an achzari. He's cruel. Klamar lo yehei achzari shelo limchol. Don't be cruel in not giving the forgiveness. So you see that in halacha, cruelty is beyond just the little kid who pulls wings off butterflies. Hilchos avel and avelus. Kol mi she'eino mizdabel. Anybody who doesn't mourn al meis karov, on a relative who died. Harei ze achzari. He's an achzari. Ela yifached v'yid'ag v'yifashresh b'ma'asav. He should be afraid, and he should be concerned, and he should check his actions. V'yachzar b'tshuva, and do tshuva. Hilchos tanis. Aval im lo yizaku, if the community does not cry out al tzara on the problems, on whatever trouble it is that had befallen the community, v'lo yariu, and they don't blow shofar, elayomu davar zeh min hagolam, that's a natural occurrence. Ira lanu, that happened to us. B'tzarazu nikres, and this trouble is just an occurrence, a happenstance. Harezu derech achzarius, that is achzarius. In all these cases, the person's detached, right? They're detached and won't forgive. There's something personally bad happened to them, and they're not relating it to their own state. They're not using that moment to say, gee, my status quo is broken. What could I do constructive? Or the community in the same boat as the. I mean, I really see Hilchas Tainus as a plural version of Hilchas Avel. In both cases, tragedy befalls, and they're saying, it's just circumstance. There's no response. There's no emotional connection to what's going on. Borur, it's clear. In these three halachos, ein malkom la'avanos amunach achzarius kafi mashma'u haragila. This isn't talking about cruelty in the normal use of the word. Kim kafi abir shalanu. The Rambam is clearly using achzarius the way we did. Adam sheina mochel lemisha mevakish mimenu mechila. Person who doesn't forgive the person who asked forgiveness. Hu achzari lefi musagei Torah. According to the Torah's understanding, that is achzari. Amnam hala pagabo v'yetzer yachas shel zarus b'neihem. Even the what happened? The other pagabo, the other harmed him and created the estrangement between them. But now he's asking to reconnect, and he wants forgiveness. And he's withholding the forgiveness. Now he, the one who was harmed, Mistager Bezarus, is holding on to the estrangement. That is achzarius in the Torah's eyes. The Yitzia meiOlam haYedidus, and leaving the world of Yedidus. Ba'adam she pekadaso tzara ve'eino pona el elokav shirachmehu, and somebody whose perspective is narrow, not really perspective, is task list, I don't know, and doesn't turn to his sense of responsibility is narrow, and doesn't turn to God asking for mercy. He is alienated from his creator. For otherwise, he would have found steps in his heart, steps in the latter sense of the word, a path in his heart. Lispalel v'liros mesilas, like Mrs. Sharm. Bilvavo lispalel v'liros, to daven and to see sheyesh tan hashgacha lo v'lo mikra, that it's not just happenstance, there's providence involved. Nikarim hadvarim, it's recognizable, right? It should be sheyesh tan shoresh mishutaf l'tofas hashanos. There is a common root to these various apparitions, these various appearances. Kach amuk, a deep force. Utahomi, that's another deep, because tahom. Shel zarus, of alienation. Asher ishlichosav murgashot hetev b'chol shetchei achayim, whose messengers, for want of a better word, are felt very well, very, very not well in the good sense. Well is functional sense. Kol shetchei chayim, in all aspects of life. Mul kol giluye hazarus, um, in opposition to all the revelations of alienation, ba'achzarius and cruelty, nitzav olam Torah b'chol hadro. The world of the Torah stands in all its glory. Nisinu l'taro b'kavim kliyim. We tried to illustrate this, to explain this in broad strokes. Osiosav ra'inu b'bris milah. We saw its signs, its symbols in bris milah, Shabbos, and Tefillin. Igvenu acharav. We followed after it, b'mitzvos, ba'alachos shebeinanim l'chavero, bein Yisrael u'mas ha'olam. Mitzvahs between one person and their fellow, and between Jews and the other nations, about lechai, to other living creatures, kol davar shebaolam, and other objects in the world. Yedidus zos b'yisodei hi hadro shel kel chayolamim. This is the glory. This Yedidus, in its fundamental, is the glory of God, the one who gives life to the universe. Chayim la'ava, life is for love. Nisiyim b'shtei milim shel Rab Avram ibn Ezra, al kesher shebein shnei psukim b'Torah b'dvarim, lamed tezvav tezlayin. Rei nasati lefnecha hayom es hachayim v'es hatov es hamaves ha'asara. See, I placed before you today life and what's good, maves and evil. Asher anochi mitzav hayom, that which I command you, la'avos Hashem Elokecha, to love Hashem your God. V'chazav al zeh l'Ibn Ezra. Kolomar sha'chayim heim la'ava. The choice is chayim and tov, maves and ra, and he's saying Asher anochi mitzav hayom la'ava. So the choice of chayim is the choice of ava, is the choice of love. Hein zui b'suras haTorah. This is the news of the Torah. Al af himatzei koach shel zarus ba'adam ba'olam. Even though you're going to find the power of estrangement in a person and in the world, etzem hachayim heim la'ava. The essence of life is for love. L'zeh anu nikraim livnos es olam haYedidus. And it's for this that we are called upon to build the world of Yedidus. Al yedei torasenu u'mitzvosenu, through our Torah and our mitzvos. Zui kol Torah kula v'idach pirusha. This is the entire Torah, and the rest is explanation. Where is this quote from?
That's Pirkei Avos.
Nah, maybe, but that's not what I was thinking of. Dalach sani lechavercha lo savid. That which you loathe, do not do to your friend. Zui kol Torah kula. That's the entire Torah. V'idach perusha, and the rest is just explanation. Say ulamad, go learn. Who says that? Hillel, to the convert.
That was thinking of
To
Phil.
the future
not Pirkei
convert.
Avos. Phil, you're right.
Yeah, but the point is, he's saying that. I think he's saying that the building the world of Yedidus is what Hillel meant by don't do to others what you would hate doing for yourself. That is building the world of Yedidus. That's the whole Torah, and like he feels he just paraphrased Hillel. That's the whole Torah. The rest is explanation. Ketzad Torah bonus haOlam haYedidus ninaseh l'taer b'mamar al Olam hamitzvos. We'll try to explain it in an essay on. Mamar is more spoken than essay, but whatever. You use mamar to mean essay idiomatically. Al Olam hamitzvos, about the world of mitzvos. So that's his Tzei Lamad. Go learn. But what's it called? So that's Olam haYedidus. We've reached the end at 9:31. That's not bad. But his point is here that the Torah's existence is not for Hashem's love directly, but for us to become loving beings. Right? He hadro, this is the hadar of kelchei olamim, is to have a world where everybody loves each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his Olam haYedidus. That's the entire Torah. Everything else is just, details.